Hey guys, it's Matthew here once again with a small video about the character I've been playing for the start of Affliction League. Basically, I had absolutely no actual plan because I just left it to the very last second, and I decided to play a Ranger, which turned into a Pathfinder, which leveled as Toxic Rain, but then became Scourge Arrow as soon as it kinda could. I experimented with lots of other bow skills as well. But at the end of the day, I was trying to become poison bows for some reason, which was absolutely not part of my initial plan when picking a starter. But in the end, was trying to become poison bows, and then I tried a lot of skills. I went with Barrage for a while, and that felt okay. Then I was just using Scourge Arrow with the channel wind up, but eventually settled on and landed on the Scourge Arrow that is new, Transfigured Scourge Arrow, which is Scourge Arrow of... I can't fucking remember. Anyway, the point is, it does not have a channel anymore, and it instead is just an attack, which kind of mimics similar enough mechanics to Tornado Shot. So it's like Scourge-nado Shot. Basically, it no longer has a channel, but instead you then have to scale arrows and projectiles so that you have more arrows that create more pods, because by default it's going to shoot out an arrow and then a pod. If you get more arrows, you'll then shoot out more pods, and it will come close to mimicking what the original Scourge Arrow does with its 5-second or 5-stage channel ramp time. And in the end, it just becomes kind of a better Scourge Arrow. For the most part, it might still have some less scaling or some shit, but it's a lot snappier to play. You run around, you right-click, pods fly out, prolifts happen, and I'm also using a Storm Rain on totems. Now, it is the new Storm Rain as well, and as far as I can tell, it's working better than it's supposed to, because it's supposed to have, like... It creates a lot of beams between two arrows, but... with the totem setup, you can create much more arrows, and it still has lots of beams. So I don't know what's going on there, but I'm doing it, I'm using it, and Storm Rain with way more arrows and way more beams seems to ramp pretty damn hard. I'm using a Darkscorn in the build at the moment, but given that we are using the new tinctures, so the first Ascendancy I picked up and went with was the one that had tinctures, just because the first one I found ended up working well, because the poison tincture that lets you poison with all damage means that you no longer just have to scale flat chaos or flat fizz on a build like this. And for bows, that does mean some pretty big things. You can stack a lot of flat elemental damage as a bow character, especially with big tri-elemental bows. However, in this case, I am using a Darkscorn. It's like a 10C bow or something that has a pretty basic amount of fizz to begin with, but since all of our damage can poison, if you just stack some other flat elemental in other cases, then it becomes a pretty powerful bow that still has some powerful modifiers on it, like physical damage taken as chaos, so if you scale your chaos resist, you take less fizz damage, but more importantly, 20% chance to deal 300% more poison damage, meaning that Prolif becomes kind of really good sometimes. At the end of the day, I'm pretty sure Darkscorn is just going to be much worse than like a really, really good Ellie bow out there, but given that it's like a 10C bow and my whole character's worth like fucking 20C in total, and we've cruised our way through to tier 10, 11 maps at this point pretty comfortably, and Poison Ramp is working really nicely, then Darkscorn is just fine. Ultimately, you can make a build all the way through to like end game, I think, with Darkscorn, but a big Traily bow will end up paying way more dividends with the tincture that I'd say is going to create some pretty nutty poison builds this league. Poison builds are already very good, and the pneumatic dagger that lets you do poison with everything, but it's just for daggers, has been pretty popular in the past few leagues for like Lightning Strike, Molten Strike, Venom Gyre, that sort of thing. And now that you can do that stuff with bows and wands, it's going to get pretty crazy, I think. So this is just a small, humble, like starter sort of little setup that can be done with Scourge Arrow, the new Scourge Arrow, but as well as that, probably just about any other bow skill. It's just that the new Scourge Arrow seems to be performing particularly well. And then, of course, this new Scourge Arrow would lend itself very well to flat elemental Scourge Arrow, like I've done in the past. If you feel like looking at that and then trying to replicate it, it should be pretty damn nuts. For now, though, this is as far as I've got with the character, about level 90, and I'll go ahead and show you what it looks like so far. There is my character, level 89, choose your own adventure gem. I had no idea what I was going to do, so, yep. Still kind of have no idea what I'm doing. It is Scourge Arrow, the new one, as I said, Scourge Arrow of Menace. So instead of having a channel, it just has a singular hit from one arrow that spawns a pod that fires off a bunch of arrows. So as you can see, if we have none of this, I right-click, there's 3 arrows going off with 3 pods. Add GMP, and you got yourself a whole bunch more. And then a whole bunch more pods going off, and it's pretty slow base attack time, so it is going to feel a little slow to begin with. Attack speed 80%, but it still feels quite a bit more comfortable than the wind-up channel of the regular Scourge Arrow, because that doesn't feel good until you have a lot of attack speed, basically, and a pretty comfortable standing still every now and again. So it's pretty powerful and does feel good. I tried out a lot of different other ranged new transfigured gems, and this one seemed to be the best. I liked Barrage Volley Fire as well, but it didn't seem to perform really that well at the end of the day. And Viper Strike Mamba looked pretty damn good for this style of character as well, just obviously not with a bow. So I'm using a Darkscorn, like I said, pretty small fizz to begin with, but it then has that 20% chance for a lot more damage, and it also theoretically gives us more EHP against physical damage, as opposed to just having a small life pool with a lot of evasion. Currently, something like that evasion. Currently, my Chaos Res isn't quite up there, so I need another 40 Chaos Res. You do typically want to cap out your Chaos Res if you're going to use a Darkscorn, and you can go even bigger with, like, Divine Flesh, Timeless Jewel, to really make it quite a bit nicer. But in this case, currently just... it's kind of an interim weapon. I'll probably maybe get a Tri-Ellie bow, because like I said, based off of the Poisonberry Tincture, all damage can poison. You got to make sure it's on your bar, got to make sure it's equipped. So currently, you know, if you just put it on like that, you then press it and it is applied, and that is how a tincture works to your attacks and for totems as well. So all damage can poison. You can get another mod on there, poisons you inflict non-poisons enemies, deal 130. It goes up to like 300 as well, so it's another low tolerance, but those can get a bit more expensive. Aside from that, the phasing on this thing doesn't feel like it's working, so that's a dead mod, but yeah, there's not too much else we can get on those. And then I've also got a 4-link Storm Rain set up for a totem at the moment, so typically you do use Focus Ballista with it, meaning that you put down a totem and then when you attack, it attacks with you instead of waiting for an enemy to show up. But recently I have tried out getting rid of Focus Ballista and then the totems just attack by themselves, and in some situations it actually feels pretty good to do that as well. So I'm just going to be swapping it in and out depending on the situation that I feel for this. But yeah, Focus Ballista to make it attack faster, and it is just a 4-link. When it gets a 5th and a 6th link and actually uses like an added lightning and unbound ailments, that sort of thing, it'll do way more damage, but currently it does a huge amount of damage. So as I said, 2 maximum arrows in the ground. So if I do something like this, for example, we attack like this, 1 arrow, 2 arrows, 3 arrows. You can see that every single time I create a new arrow, it will remove the previous arrow, because you can have 2 arrows, but then it's going to have a lot of beams firing between it, and it'll be pretty effective. However, as it says max 2 arrows, if we do it with our totem setup and have it on Focus Ballista, so just the 1 totem, fuck, wrong thing. Let's wait for our totems to despawn, because we are just trying to showcase 1 totem. So just the 1 totem, if I attack, you can see it creates a Storm Rain, a Storm Rain, a Storm Rain, and it just keeps creating arrows and more beams and bounces. So I don't know if we're bypassing a loophole here or some shit, but in theory, this does mean that we create quite a lot of Storm Rains. Free the totems, Storm Rain it up, and then we get a lot of overlap and a lot of damage. And it seems to be working pretty well for my single target thus far. So we've got Storm Rain, Focus Ballista, Ballista Totem, Vicious Proj. This one here is Scourge Arrow with added lightning, given that Poisonberry Tincture works, Vicious Proj, Deadly Ailments, and GMP. Other than that, a Frenzy with Mana Forge, so Mana Forged arrows over here with Frenzy and Ensnaring Arrow, Malevolence just up there, Grace up here, Blink Arrow, Despair, and Frostblink, and then just some pretty basic gear. It's got some life, some resists, that sort of stuff. I have one instance of minus mana cost just to make mana costs a bit easier. Likewise with the hat enchant here, or hat implicit. And then some flat lightning there, some flat LE damage, I mean, bit of flat there. And yeah, that's pretty much all my damage at the moment. So I haven't really sorted flasks out. These are still very early shitty flasks, but I'll hopefully sustain like flasks through Pathfinder very well, using this, and this. And then for my Ascendancy here, it's I started out with this one, and I'm still using that 30 movement speed, then this, and my last one will probably be this. And the passive tree has gone through a few little iterations. At the moment, it's looking something like this. I'm probably going to cut that node as well. But looking like this, going there, I'll probably grab some dual sockets. Other than that, there's all this. This is kind of important for helping get max withers up ASAP, and then good clear because of that. You do need a spec all over the tree for poison chance, unfortunately, because our poison chance by default kind of sucks. So if you're going to build something like this, make sure you get your poison chance kind of capped pretty early on. Yeah, aside from that, I was either going to get another ballista here and then maybe use multi-totems and have like 6 ballistas, or get a temp chains happening from up here. Got some stuff I can spec there. Got dual sockets. I'm still not really sure exactly where I'm taking the build, but just going to keep going through my maps, upgrading, and slowly chipping away at the new league. Also, Herald of Agony over here. So that's kind of the character, nothing too special. Cap suppress almost as well, forgot to mention. So a bunch of evasion, near cap suppress, mostly from the passive tree. And yeah, we feel kind of tanky, but you know, can be kind of squish. But at the same time, a lot of ramp. And I do think builds like this have some pretty big potential, but same with Flat Ellie Bow. Basically, moral of the story, Scourge of Mana is pretty good, and Storm Rain of the Fence, pretty good. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.